Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Menopause Mindset Monday. This is the place to be to explore topics related to menopause, to perimenopause in all of its variations and all of its colours. So if you're ready to give up the doom and gloom around menopause and you're the kind of person who is really committed to making menopause one of the best times in your life, then keep watching. So thank you very much for joining me. If you're watching, do say hi. Let me know you're watching and remember to ask questions, leave comments. Any question is fine. No question is silly or too big or too small. If it's in your head, it will probably help somebody else. So today's talk is called Menopause and Money, Smart Strategies to Kickstart and Maintain Your Financial Health. So why on earth are we talking about this subject when this is a group about menopause? So when I released this title, so many people commented and said, wow, I've never really seen that link. I never realized there was a link between menopause and money. And to be honest, this is something relatively new to me too. And I only just made the connection myself because the reason I think I've made this connection is because I've been looking at my own life and what's really important to me during this transition. And as I said in last week's live, to me the perimenopause is all about growing up, growing into the skin of an independent adult. And of course, money comes into that. Money it's a pretty adult issue, right? So money is a really important issue at menopause because of this transitional period of our lives. It's a time when we start taking stock. It's a time when we start taking stock of our health, when we realize the habits and behaviors and the lifestyle choices that we used to have no longer work for us. So why wouldn't money come into that equation, right? Money is the energy that enables us to buy comfort and freedom. And at menopause or at perimenopause, we realize we start to need that comfort and that freedom more than ever. So we need to take a look at the blocks that we have around that. So money at menopause is important because, and I'll be honest with you, we are thinking about the time that we have left on this planet and we want to make it secure. We want to make it comfortable. So my values in the past used to be things like growth, excitement, fun. And when I had my midlife crisis a year ago, I suddenly realized that security was a big value for me. And that is why money has to come into it. So before I hit perimenopause, I always used to think, I'm never going to give up work. I love work. I identified with work. And I was never bothered about creating one of those laptop lifestyles that was going to give me more freedom, work less hours, yada, yada. To me, that, I loved my job. I loved teaching singing and I loved the security of that. But this year has actually been really, really pivotal for me because my mind and my body was starting to crave less time working and more time enjoying life. And that I actually was needing to start living my life a bit differently. I couldn't keep seeing, 8 singing students a day. And, I'd been on that treadmill for years and actually, I realized that I wanted something different, even though I never thought I would. And that's partly why I chose to learn RTT, because I knew it would bump up my income and help me to release those mindset blocks required to move into the next phase of my life, where I wanted to, now I actually feel like I do want to make more impact, have the confidence to make more impact, but using less energy or using my energy in a much more efficient way. So it's all about refining your energy. And that's good. So because of the physical, mental and emotional experiences of perimenopause and menopause, we get this huge opportunity to reshape our lives and actually create a life or a business that actually works for us. But of course, like all these things, change doesn't come without fear facing, right? So generally speaking, nobody likes change, especially as we get older. we buy into these cultural expectations that we can't change, that change is difficult. But if we can start to welcome these changes, then we're going to be able to take these risks required without the resistance. We can just say, fuck it, pardon my French, and be much more carefree and just understanding that life supports us. And I think as we get older, we actually feel that and know that a bit more. So what needs to change? Well, the workplace is not an ideal space for menopausal women. Why? Because menopausal women need and require flexibility. So in a survey done by ITV Tonight, they discovered that 25% of women in the workplace have actually considered leaving their job because of menopausal symptoms, and around 10% have given up their work altogether. And they also discovered that 85% of women believed there should be specific occupational guidelines around menopause at work. So this is really, really important because it tells us that there needs to be a conversation around how we can make the workplace better for women who choose to stay in work. And this requires up-leveling. This requires up-leveling of your confidence, the confidence to bring the subject up, to open up the conversation, to say, you know, I need more flexibility. I need a dark room to go and sit in for 30 minutes, you know, after lunch. I need to be able to engage my work around my kids, my lifestyle. Maybe you need a longer lunch break. Maybe you need to work shorter hours because you just can't withstand it. Maybe you need to have a conversation about the quality of the food in the canteen. So those are the sorts of issues that need to be brought up in the workplace. But also this, at perimenopause, our minds and our personalities are changing. Women at perimenopause and beyond need and require more autonomy than they are usually given in the workplace. They need to be able to think for themselves because they've got their own mind. At perimenopause, we usually want to be more outspoken. We've gained significant life experience. We feel we have a lot to offer in terms of the health, support that we can offer others, the knowledge that we've accrued and acquired, we feel we can impart to others and help others. So a perimenopausal woman's life looks very different to a woman in her 20s or even a man's life. So a man's energy is much more linear. Their energy is consistent through the day, through the week, through the month, whereas a woman's energy is much more different. And as such, she requires a different type of working life. So it's clear that something needs to change around perimenopause. And during this time, we are usually considering working less, meaning that we have to find ways of earning more so that we can go into this third age of ours in line with our values, with perhaps more comfort, more freedom, more pleasure. And we're wondering how we can do that. And with that comes the need for some sort of financial planning. We need to take stock. We need to have a look at our finances. So here are my 3 steps for helping you to kickstart and maintain some financial health. Now remember, with these steps, the most important thing is to keep the energetic resistance low. So if they are triggering, do them at a time when you're feeling stronger. Or if that's never, try to talk yourself around, talk yourself into a better feeling place about these exercises, knowing that you are going to feel better after you've done them. Okay, so step number 1 then. Step number 1 is you need a reality check. So we need to take a look at what our financial situation really looks like. It's all too easy to bury our head in the sand and just to play an avoidance tactic. But we need to get really clear and we need to get really honest. So how much are you earning and how much are you spending? So something I like to do at least once a year is to create or tweak a spreadsheet of all my yearly expenses, and I do it yearly because I pay my tax yearly. Everything to me is in a year rather than a month. My income changes every month. So I like to write this spreadsheet of all my yearly expenses, and I divide this into actual expenses and expenses that I need for my growth, and then expenses like luxury expenses. So maybe time with the family, holidays, little luxuries that I want, little stays in hotels or spa weekends. And then the middle column is what I need for my growth. What courses would I like to be doing? What technical things do I need? Like, do I need a new iPad? Do I need a new iPhone? Do I need a new subscription? Do I need new, whatever, things like that, equipment, microphone, camera. And then your heat, your light, your internet, the things that you can't live without. So you can look, what do I need to live on? What do I need to up level? And what are my luxuries? And then that gives you clarity. So knowing, hang on, where am I? I need the clarity bit. When you have clarity, it's really, really, really good. When you have clarity, you have more ease and flow. When you have clarity, you just understand yourself better. You know what you need to do. You can make decisions better. So knowing where you need to spend your money is important, because otherwise you waste it. Okay, so taking some time out also to get super clear on your values will help you avoid expensive mistakes. So often we can spend money in that middle bit or that last column when we don't actually need to, because they're not in line with our true values. So for me at the moment, my values are up-leveling my business, not particularly going on a 5-star luxury cruise around the world or even going to see Abraham Hicks in San Francisco. That's not where I'm at right now. Where I'm at is I want to buy a new webcam, I want to buy a new iPad, I want to maybe invest in some training around neuroscience. So that is where I'm at. If we don't know these things, if they're not clearly set out in stone, we are likely to spend impulsively. And I have done this in the past. I've invested money in a course, a 2-day course in London that I thought I needed, but I didn't really need. And when I got there after the first day, I realised, I didn't really need this course. It was a bit too woohoo for me, and that's money down the drain. But it's an expensive mistake, but it's one that I won't repeat again, because when I am making purchase decisions, I'm really lining them up next to my values. So knowing what your values are, getting them out on paper, and doing this regularly every 3 to 6 months, because during menopause or perimenopause, your values are really, really going to change. So just the process of writing down these expenses in these 3 columns is going to be liberating, because remember, wherever your attention goes, energy flows. So you feel like you're getting clearer. Clarity creates flow. It releases resistance. And when you've done that, you can see where you are with your income. Do you need to earn more? Do you need to save more? Where are you wasting your money? Because clarity is always the first step. So then asking yourself, what are your goals? Would you like to be financially independent from a spouse, from a partner, from a job that's pulling you down? Are you relying on a partner? Are you relying on a job that you don't like? Are you relying on family? Are you relying on inheritance? That's all okay. It's okay to rely on these things, but ask yourself, is that really where you want to be right now in your life? I know for me, not relying on my parents was hugely important for my sense of self-esteem and sense of self-worth. So, you don't have to be reliant on a partner. We don't have to be reliant, financially dependent on a spouse these days. So, but that means that we have to find ways of becoming financially independent for ourselves. And that means learning to become financially mature. So other questions to consider. Do you have savings? if you don't have savings, can you tithe some income put it into a pot? Can you start a cash icer? I think you can invest £20,000 a year in a cash icer, which is tax-free. Have you got a pension? And would you like a pension? Do you know anything about pensions? So I met this really lovely lady called Samantha Kay, who's a chartered financial planner. wellesleywa.co.uk is her website address. I will put it in the link above. She's really, really lovely. I met her at a networking event, the Athena Network event. I met her and she's super lovely, and she is so knowledgeable about savings, investment, pensions, inheritance, although pensions is her passion. She can advise how much do you need to start squirreling away, and it doesn't matter if you've never done it before. Start now. That is my advice when it comes to health, finances, anything, relationships. Just start now. So that's pension. So what is important to you? Is getting on the property ladder important to you? Or is it not? Do you prefer to roam free and not have the hassle of owning a property? Owning a property doesn't always work well for you later on in life, because if you've got a property and you need to go into care, you have to sell your property. If you live in rented in this country anyway, you get more financial support if you need to go into care. So you have to decide, and it's all around your values. What is important to you? Is having the freedom now important to you, or is security later on in life important to you? Or is freedom later on in life important to you? So also looking at how you can save money in your expenses right now. So are there subscription services that you subscribe to that you don't really need? Could you live without Spotify? Could you live without YouTube subscription? Could you live without your audiobook subscription? I couldn't, I'm afraid. Could you live without that Woman's Weekly subscription? Could you do your shop online so that you don't waste money when you go around the supermarket? Because if you see it, you want it, you buy it, you put it in the trolley. And I love doing this. Can you get your cupboards right down to the bare bones? Can you make a meal out of a tin of beans, a stick of celery and an onion, and some stock? There's a nice soup right there. And when I do stuff like this, when I cut back like this, I actually feel super resourceful. Now, for some people, they might think that this is a lack mindset, but it's not. It's just being resourceful. And, when you're being resourceful, you can feel very abundant, actually. It's like the story of Jesus with the 5 loaves and the 5 loaves and the 5 fishes and feeding the 5,000 or something like that. This is about just being resourceful, using the resources that you've got. Another thing that you could do is book a money date with your partner, and just to get really, really clear on where you're heading, maybe set a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan. Look at ways in which you can save money, or if you're in debt, look at ways in which you can get yourself out of debt, maybe consolidate your debts. And also looking at wills. Now, I just got a will done this year, and I got this done through the Free Wills Network. So I'm leaving some money to charity, and the charity paid for my will. And you don't actually have to leave the money to charity, but the Free Wills Network is something that you can look at if you've got any assets that you want to leave behind. You don't have to pay for a will. You can get it via the Free Wills Network. It's all these little things, isn't it? Look at what you could sell on eBay or Spock or Facebook Marketplace. Have you got stuff in your cupboards that are worth something that could help to pay for that middle column or that last column? How can you live more simply? How can you investigate more productivity hacks? Go on and Google productivity hacks. How can you prioritize your spending? So for me, I spend more than average on healthy organic food because it's super, super important to me to take care of my mental health, my gut health, But I don't spend a lot on travel. I don't spend a lot on going places because I tend to get my inspiration from around here. I get my inspiration from other people, making connections, finding out about people. But you might not be that sort of a person. What's important for you to stay nourished, to stay alive, to stay healthy? How can you prioritize your spending? So let me see. Yes, is spending money on trinkets, makeup, jewelry. You know, for me, that's not a priority anymore. It definitely used to be in my 20s, but, you know, or things like crystals are not important to me. They used to be, but they're not anymore. And sometimes I find that when we're in the wellness industry or when we're wellness practitioners or we're looking at becoming healthy, we can tend to spend a lot of money on props when actually, you know, what we really need is just meditation, breathing exercises, and those things tend to be free or much freer than spending lots and lots of money on various different, you know, aromatherapies or herbs or supplements. Where can you streamline your finances? Also, something else to consider, whenever you buy something, think about how many hours you need to work in order to generate the money to buy it. So this actually gives you quite a big wake-up call. So I read on a website when I was planning this live that if you take the average American wage of $60,000 a year, if you divide it up, they show you the formula on the website, it takes around 8 minutes of work to buy a good quality cappuccino. And I personally think that's quite a lot. And I don't think it's worth it. I mean, you might think it's worth it. But as we get into menopause or perimenopause, our time becomes much more valuable than what it did when we were younger. So you have to ask yourself, is that 8 minutes of work really worth it? Or, you know, how could I save up my 8 minutes of work and buy something that's really going to buy me freedom in the future? So that's why productivity becomes more important as we get into menopause. Productivity, efficiency, becomes so much more important. And when we're in this third age, we have to look at where we are hemorrhaging time. You know, do you spend ages scrolling on your phone when really, if you knew what your values were, you could just be heading straight to the group that brings you the most value? Do you spend ages talking to people on the phone when really you could just send a quick text? Or do you text, which takes forever, or could you just send a quick voice clip? And actually, when you send a voice clip, you're getting the other health benefits of using your brain and your voice rather than staring at a screen. So voice clips, in my opinion, are much more productive, and they help to stimulate your thinking and your ideas as well. So, I mean, some of the ways that I have chosen to save time is I only wash my hair once a week, because my hair actually takes like an hour to do from start to finish. I couldn't do that 3 times a week. I don't have the time. I do have the time, but I choose not to spend my time doing that. So I invested in a really good hairdryer and some dry shampoo. Done, dusted, fine, great. Takes me 2 seconds in the morning to do. I also choose to go to bed really early because I have my productivity in the morning. That's when I am most productive. So I limit my TV time, go to bed early and get up early, because when first thing in the morning, I'm super, super productive. So there are many different ways that we can learn to be more productive, more efficient during this time in our life. And it's important to research those ways. And I know from now on, I am going to be looking at ways, I'm going to be researching productivity hacks for sure. Okay, step two. Step two in our conversation about ways to kickstart your financial health. So step number 2 is to become entrepreneurial. So it's definitely worth considering. I know most people in this group are entrepreneurial, but if you're not, don't rule it out. So every single one of you has the ability to create something and sell it, whether it's you're crafting a product, whether it's a wellness product or a wellness service or another kind of service, like maybe a cleaning service or a car cleaning app or some kind of technology that makes people's lives easier. So that is the way to design a business, is to curate information or to create something that actually solves a problem, that instills convenience in people's lives. So, like I said, you can create information, you can package it all up in one place so that people don't have to trawl around the internet looking for everything that they need. Maybe you could invest money in an online course, learn something new, and then synthesize it with information that you already have, adding content, adding stuff that you already know to this new content, which is effectively what I'm doing here. So then you can impart that wisdom onto someone else, because, you know, the best way to learn something is to actually teach it. As I'm doing my Facebook Lives, I am learning so much. You can invest in courses that teach you how to sell. You don't have to spend a fortune. There are courses out there, Udemy, Center of Excellence. These are all places where you can learn relatively inexpensively. You can learn how to sell, you can learn how to sing, you can learn how to dance, you can learn knitting, crochet, acupuncture, EFT, hypnotherapy. You can learn anything. Choose something that is in line with your values and then work out how you can package it up and sell it to others. Creating an Instagram page, a Facebook page, showing up consistently, designing free resources, designing workshops, creating events. There's so many ways that you can generate income for yourself. Now, why is entrepreneurship important at menopause and beyond? Because menopause is a time when we are shaping our identity. We're becoming an adult. We are, flying in the energetic nest. We are coming into our own. We are becoming authentic. We're becoming wise. We're becoming fearless. And being entrepreneurial really gives us a route into all of those qualities. So authenticness, fearlessness, confidence, maturity, pride. And when we become all of those things, we become so much more solid and stable. And then we become really alluring to others as well. And that's when others gravitate towards us. So ask yourself, who are you? What experiences have you had that you can package up and teach others? Maybe you're not quite there yet. Maybe you're at the beginning of this journey, and maybe you'd like to become entrepreneurial with it all, and that's okay. Or you might want to consider becoming, a freelancer or a virtual assistant. What skills do you have? There are many entrepreneurs that need assistance, and maybe you could be an assistant to an entrepreneur. So really thinking outside the box, looking for ways that you can create a side income that could perhaps lead you on to something else, that could lead you on to having more time freedom later on in life. So the long and short of it is, we need to find ways of becoming more autonomous at perimenopause, and that usually means working on our own terms, because a woman's cycle means that she has more energy at the beginning of her cycle and less energy at the end of her cycle. So a woman's cycle is not linear. A woman's energy, is not linear. And therefore, the diary and the workload needs to be adjusted accordingly. So when you're in your 20s, I know for me, I could push myself. My energy was pretty much the same for the whole week. But when I became perimenopausal and my hormones were doing this, my energy level's not quite as it used to be at the end of the week. And I certainly can't push as hard in those latter 2 weeks of my cycle. So flexibility is the absolute key at perimenopause. Okay, so step number 3 to kickstarting your financial health at menopause is to clear your subconscious money blocks. This is big. This is big, 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 big. And obviously this is my big passion because this is what I do all day, every day. I help people to overcome and smash through their subconscious blocks with RTT. So normally, people have blocks to doing step 1 and step 2. And those blocks are your fears, the fear of rejection, fear of being seen. And those fears come from lots and lots of beliefs that are under the surface. So we need to get to the root of it all. So I'll say it again. The number one thing that holds people back from becoming entrepreneurial and really looking at their finances is the subconscious belief around money and their fears of being visible and the potential of being rejected. And this idea that I won't be able to make it work. Everybody else can make it work, but I won't be able to. I had that, of course. And also a fear of commitment. To generate income yourself, you have to show up consistently. And that can be really difficult during the menopausal time because some Mondays I don't feel like it, but I have to adjust accordingly. But being entrepreneurial enables you to do that because you're working on your own terms. And, even if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, you will still have subconscious beliefs around your ability to expand into your potential, whether that's working for someone else or working for yourself. So those beliefs come in the form of statements which lead to feelings like I'm not good enough, I must never be rejected, I don't deserve money is difficult, money is complex, I don't want to do those difficult things required to make money. They don't feel nice. So we need to dig deep. We need to find out what they are and where they have come from. And the best way that you can do this is have an RTT session with me because we can do it under hypnosis. We can work out what you learnt about yourself and about the world around you based on how the adults treated you and behaved around you. Because when you're younger, you learn through energetic osmosis. You get imprinted with this coding that comes from your parents and it's not yours. When you realize where it's come from, you can break it, you can rewire it, you can reframe it. You can use very, very powerful language under hypnosis to help jumpstart you into a new reality, one where you don't have these fears or they're less prominent and you might have them, but it doesn't matter. You just do it anyway. Plus, you get a recording with RTT and it rewires your neurology so that the changes become more permanent. This is based on neuroscience. It's not based on fluff. So this is why most of my clients are peri to postmenopausal women, because they feel it's time to change. It's time to change the old coding. It's a now or never game that we're playing here at this age. It's an extremely powerful time of a woman's life, and money is a powerful thing. So obviously, clearing out these subconscious blocks is really important if you want to move forward with money. And it's always better to do it with a therapist if you can, but you can do it alone if you want to. And I'm going to show you how you can do it alone if you want to, but you will need a journal. So you need to ask yourself, it's a 5-step process. You need to ask yourself, what limiting beliefs do I have around money? So what are they, first of all? What do I believe? What memories spring to mind about the way my parents were with money? You can do this with your eyes closed or, under hypnosis. This is so powerful. Number 3, how did I feel about what I learnt from them? Again, under hypnosis, this is really powerful because the feeling drives the change rather than the logic. But you can do this written anyway. It will certainly give you a glimpse. Number 4, you decide that you are choosing to break these old beliefs. And you write down, I'm choosing to break these beliefs because, and then you finish that sentence. Excuse me. And then number 5, you say, instead, I choose to believe, and you write out your new belief. Now again, under hypnosis, these statements become supercharged, super powerful, and remember that emotion drives change, not logic. So if you are doing this process written down, put some music on to help elevate your emotional energy. But if you are interested in having some RTT, then do drop me a direct message on Facebook or Instagram, or send me an email. My email address is info@sallygarozzo.com, and book a consultation with me. I charge £30 for the consultation, but you get it back. It's just a deposit, providing you turn up to the phone call. So I believe that we, in the spirit of money, I believe that we should start being transparent about our prices, because our prices are nothing to be ashamed of. And I think this is why a lot of entrepreneurs hold back, because they're almost ashamed about how much they charge. And I'm really passionate about this idea of being transparent with our prices. So in the spirit of that, I'm going to tell you how much I charge. So to work with me for 1 month is £347. And, when you look at the transformation you get, it's really not that expensive. And that includes your 2-hour RTT session done via Zoom or in person with me in Brighton, 2 coaching calls, WhatsApp support, and your recording. So that's quite a lot. You're getting quite a lot for your money. And I also think there's this idea, of taking risks around your spending. So as we said earlier, you've got your 3 columns. This is what you need to live. This is what you need to up-level your business. And, working with me on some RTT would be in that column. And so to get from there to there, you do need to have a little stretch. You do need to spend a little bit more money than you are comfortable spending in order to really invest in your change. Because if you spend money that's really comfortable, like £30 on a therapy session, you're not really going to be invested in it. You become invested when you spend a little bit more that's outside of your comfort zone. And of course, I'm not suggesting you get into debt. Of course, I'm not saying that. But be aware of that little bit of discomfort, but also the excitement that goes with it. Discomfort and excitement is kind of a good sign. Okay, so what do I need to say next? I have one final point. My final point here is, who do you need to become to implement these strategies? So, if you want change, you need to become somebody different. Now, I'm all for self-acceptance. I'm not talking about not accepting yourself. Of course, you have to accept yourself to the core of your being and love yourself. But if you always do what you've always done, you're always going to get the same results. So, in order to create these money changes in your life at menopause, you need to become somebody different. You're shedding a skin, like a snake shedding their skin. And you need to shuffle off the old and you need to welcome the new. So I've got 7 personality qualities, certain personality traits that I believe are really useful for you to implement if you are going to, really useful to embody if you're going to implement these changes. Number 1, you need to care enough about your well-being. Care enough about your comfort and your ease to make this a priority. Number 2, you need to be willing to get uncomfortable and face some fears. So prise open that lid of denial. Number 3, you need to be confident enough to start having these conversations with your boss, your colleagues, your spouse, your children. What needs to change in order for you to live your life with more well-being, ease, flow and comfort, and plan for those qualities in the future. Number 4, you need to love yourself to walk this somewhat difficult path. So you need to really love yourself, to really care about yourself in order to walk this sometimes difficult path. You need to be, number 5, you need to be willing to let go of your old beliefs that money is the root of all evil, and that money is not spiritual, and that I don't deserve money, and blah, blah, blah. Because with money, you can do great things. So you need to be able to let go of all that dross, and you need to be committed to letting go of all that dross. Number 6, you need to become a lot less concerned with what other people think about you and more concerned with what you think about yourself. Massive one. And number 7, you need to devalue liabilities and you need to value assets. All right, so start devaluing liabilities. So a liability is an expenditure that's not really bringing you an investment. So for example, a car devalues, doesn't it, over time? So some people really value spending money on their cars even though they depreciate over time. And that's okay if you have money to spend on a car, but if you don't and you're really wanting to up level, you might want to consider where your values lie in terms of assets and liabilities. Okay, that's all I've got. I feel like I have been in a very kind of speedy mindset whilst I've been talking about all of that. Sometimes I get really passionate about this stuff and it's like fire, just, and then I watch the video back and I think, oh, I haven't really fleshed that out enough. So if there is anything that you want fleshing out, if there's something that I've just skimmed over and you're like, I need more, please let me know in the comments below. I'll be happy to expand if you need it. Okay, so that is all from me today. Remember, if you're interested in working with me, check out sallygarozzo.com. Email me, DM me, put me into Google and God knows what will come up. All right, guys, until next week, lots of love. Oh, by the way, next week, we're going to be diving into the issue of hormones. Yes, we will get there. We are going to be talking about hormones. All right, guys, lots of love. Bye.